All right, we're going to jump into our final segment, which is a shoe review, actually shoes review. We're going to look at a shoe lineup that we've been able to test. It is not that one, David. David's whipping out all these like random shoes. But we're going to be talking about craft. So we have been able to use the CTM Craft Tailored Motion shoes. There are 3 shoes that were sent to our team for testing. And it kind of flows in this category where they have a trainer, then they have a performance trainer, and then they got a racing flat. It's a little different because it kind of you go ahead. Tell us why it's different.
I'll let Matt go first.
I'd just like to say, for craft, for your marketing with this upper, no one in our chat liked this, so I'm going to try this on the world. I'm sorry in advance. But I think a new hashtag craft could use is arts and crafts. I'm just saying.
Hey, I'm for it. I like that.
How come
hashtag.
I didn't have any of that support earlier when I posted that?
I did not hate on that hashtag. I did not.
No one responded.
Let me go. Okay, I can go pull this up. I'm going to go pull this up. I'm going to go pull this up. No.
If crafts would use arts and craft as their go-to hashtag.
Right.
I did not hate on that hashtag.
It's a great hashtag.
No one responded.
This is taking me a while to actually find.
What was the question, Nathan? I'm sorry.
We're basically going to review these 3 shoes, and David was about to say why he doesn't think it really falls into that. I
just wanted to go on the record. Right. I did not hate on the arts and craft hashtag.
No one said anything, and I felt very.
I'm all for it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm all for mac and cheese as well. But no, yeah, I think this is different because it's more in the ultra community. This is still a racing shoe. This is still very much a racing shoe.
This meaning the CTM
This
Ultra.
Is the CTM Ultra Carbon 2. Now, it's not a racing shoe in the aspect that we think of 5K, 10K marathon, but their elites are running in these for 100 miles, 50 miles, trail ultra races. Like, this is a racing shoe, but the design is completely different and for a different event. And so I think where that crosses over into, let's say, the more orthodox, normal running world where you're not an ultra runner, is that this probably would be considered more in the performance trainer category for most people. But this is still a racer. I still consider like the Carbon X2 or Carbon X3, depending on the person, it's a performance trainer or an ultra racer. I think there's overlap there. So this is still very much an ultra racer to me. And if I was running 50 miles, it's one of the shoes I probably would end up considering. It's actually really nice. But that's why they make non-plated versions too for more daily training. And then they made their Race Rebel in collaboration with Tommy Rivs. They have that little Let's Rage decal on there. For more of those marathon distances and kind of sprinkling itself back into the road world. But craft has always been more of that ultra community for the most part. And so I think it's important to distinguish that because this is kind of a unique line of, let's say, trainer, performance trainer, racer, because the racer isn't as clear cut as it normally would be. In fact, I'm not even sure I would put this shoe in that same category as the other ones being in the CTM lineup. Yeah, because when I think of craft, I think of like ultra trail runners. Like craft has quite a good roster when it comes to ultra trail runners.
Yep. And they're designing for them.
Exactly. That's kind of more the focus of the company. I mean, they're branching out a little bit and they're starting to get into the road racing world with the Carbon Race Rebel. But their focus has always been on things much longer. So,
cool.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick step back. I'm going to run through some specs quick, and then we can go into testing experience. So the first shoe is the CTM Ultra 2. This is touted as kind of more in just the trainer realm. It's a non-plated shoe. All these shoes have the same stacks, 40 millimeters in the heel, 30 millimeters in the forefoot for a 10 millimeter drop. This shoe is 250 grams, which is just under 9 ounces, 8.8 ounces. And I think it has a UD foam for the midsole. If we jump over to the Carbon 2, again, same stack height, same drop, and then I believe all the same foam. You just add in a carbon plate in there, and instead of being 250 per grams, you actually go up to 262, so you get a little bit more weight, which brings it to 9.2 ounces. And then finally we have the Race Rebel. Well, this is the most differentiated, has the 40, 30, 10 millimeter drop, but this one's a little bit lighter, 200 grams, and it has the UD Foam Pro. And so you have a different type of a compound that's used in this shoe, which makes sense for what they're trying to do with it. So you have a little bit lighter, different kind of a foam. We'll talk about what it feels like on foot. But I do think the other unique feature of at least the first two shoes, the Carbon and the just normal Ultra 2, is the outsole pattern is definitely designed for kind of this hybrid nature. And we'll get into this, but I think it does a fantastic job being an actual hybrid outsole shoe instead of being a trail shoe that can go onto the roads. It does phenomenal on the roads, and it can handle a lot of light trails. But we'll go into that. So, like David said, they're geared towards the trails. The closest one towards road is the Race Rebel. But let's talk about them. What's been y'all's experience from a fit standpoint? Do they all fit kind of the same? Do they have any differences? What do you notice there?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna go. I really enjoyed these much more than I expected. I think I was a little nervous because I wanted to try version 1, and then just heard so many rough things about different parts and disappointments and things like that. I really, really enjoyed these. The upper, one of the things is it does fit wider. There's not a lot of structure up here, so if you need structure here, that's definitely been a challenge, and especially locking it down. The sole has been great. I think, as Nathan mentioned, using this as a true hybrid road trail. So this is the best road trail hybrid. I can't talk. I think I've ever experienced, where I can easily transition between road and trail without even noticing, and still get plenty of grip. Although this poor left side, I've worn down the nubs, but durability is still pretty good. I mean, I've got 60, 70 miles in these, and they've handled both road and trail really well. So I've been pretty impressed by them overall. Just I think the upper security can be a little challenging, but I tend to like a little less here, so I'm a little biased. So you two are going to have to talk about upper stuff on that.
I think I only have this one shoe, and so I'll just go quick because I don't have a whole lot to say. Plus, I only have one run in these before I've been sidelined for a little bit, so I won't say too much. But I definitely need to lock this down a lot. Thankfully, it has enough leeway where I can get some kind of lock. You can see it, for those watching, you can see here, it's basically the two sides of the eyelets are touching each other because that's how tight I have to tie it for it to hold my foot on the platform.
Wait, Nathan, are you heel locking it?
Am I heel? I'm using the last eyelet, but I'm not doing a heel lock.
You should heel lock it.
Try
it.
Okay. It's a lot of work.
Just do it.
Kidding.
It takes 2 minutes.
But for me, it's not even the heel that's the really rough part. It's actually the forefoot has so much room that I feel like I even move in the forefoot. It's just a very roomy shoe, which has worked for me. I'm wearing a boot right now, and so I can put two full insoles in this shoe, and it makes it about the same height as my boot. So that's been good, and I have plenty of room for my foot. So that's been a positive, having that much room in here. Anyway, David, you go.
No, I agree. I mean, so my experience with the uppers of the CTM line, they're all basically the same. I mean, they're the 100% polyester ultralight mesh. Fun fact, they put all their specs on the shoe outside of drop ratio, but they have it all written down there, like the line of it, what the upper is made out of, the midsole compound, and then a little designed in Sweden little trademark. But the uppers are all pretty dang similar. So that volume issue that Nathan was getting through the forefoot and midfoot, I got it too. And I think we had very similar experiences there, where if I laced it up normally, I would have heel slippage issues because of how much room was there. However, once I heel locked it, it pulled that material in, and I had no problems. And one of the good things is, on the heel there's actually kind of a suede-like material right in here, and it really grabs the sock. And that's on all of the models. That's not on just one or two of them. So once I heel locked it, that fit issue was solved. However, I feel like I shouldn't have to heel lock it in order to solve that. But outside of that, the uppers are actually pretty lightweight. I think they're actually reinforced halfway decent. Like I've taken them through trails and some hard turns, and I haven't had any excessive translations. I had one semi-close call where I kind of rolled my ankle, but like it held up fine. I didn't have any like crazy stretching or anything like that. So I'm actually pretty happy with the uppers overall. Like as far as the fit goes, it's that volume issue. I think if they can address that across the full lineup, I had that across the board. Then I think
would you go down a size?
No, I think it's true to size.
Right.
I think it's
I
true
would
to
not.
size. I mean, the length might be a
very
tiny
true
bit
to
long,
size.
but like it's true to size. Yeah, it's true to size. I think it's just a matter of fixing the volume. But the heel lock helped with the volume issue for me.
And I think if you're somebody out there, especially doing ultra or long distance running, and you want to shoot with more volume, this actually might work really, really well for you.
Yeah.
Like for me, my feet tend to swell, so like this has been a great shoe for some of the longer miles because it can handle that, and I don't feel like things get pinched. So that's where it does work. But I think people using it for shorter stuff, maybe a little, like Nathan said, you might just have to really lock that down.
Yeah, and I have a more narrow foot, so you kind of get in a spectrum of feet here, which is hopefully helpful.
And as you can see, I have every single one of these heel locked.
Yes.
Nathan?
When it comes to the UD foam versus the UD Pro foam, do you guys notice a difference between the two?
I do, but I think it's more plate versus non-plate. Because if you look at the Carbon Ultra versus just the regular Ultra, the regular Ultra feels a lot softer.
Then the Ultra Carbon?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's the same midsole. Not that this one isn't soft and compliant and whatever, but whatever they use for their plate material is pretty firm. And so that firms this shoe up quite a bit. Not a bad thing. Like, I really, really like this shoe. I like them both. But for daily training, I've actually really enjoyed this. And I like that there's some forefoot flexibility. Their rocker design is actually done pretty well, I think. And the traction underfoot's great. From a foam standpoint, there's a little bit more responsiveness in the UD Pro foam, I think. The way I put it in my review is I say, quote unquote, responsive enough. The shoe relies much more on its geometry and its plate design. I still have run several 5.0 minute miles in that shoe fine. Like, it's not like you can't run fast in it, and the weight is still pretty good. But with that said, it's just not as poppy as some of these other new generation shoes. But it's still really rhythmic. It's still very protective. It's still lightweight for the category. I mean, if you have 40 millimeters of stack and you're looking at 7.5 ounces roughly, that's still pretty good. So I think for the right person, this could be a shoe worth looking at. But for me, I still think it's that Marathon Plus. I don't quite think of it as a half marathon or down racer. And really, even for the marathon distance, I still have a hard time choosing that over other options that are out there at the moment. So the midsole itself, it's lightweight, it's protective, it's got those things. It's a little bit firmer than some of the other foams out there. I'm not going to say this is a super foam. It isn't. And on their website, it definitely, I mean, they say it's 100% EVA. It's their own proprietary blend of some kind. And it feels that way. And that's not a bad thing per se, but it's just, that's just the shoe. It almost feels like a baby between the Hoka Carbon X and the Saucony Endorphin Pro to me. It's got a similar speed roll like feel that the Sauconys give me, but I have a little bit more of that kind of Carbon X like protection or EVA
specifically
feel,
for the race, specifically for the Race Rebel, or both Race Rebel and the Carbon Ultra Carbon 2.
That's a good question. For the Race Rebel.
Race Rebel. Okay.
I hate to say it, but this is almost like basically it's a little bit heavier, but it's almost like that Cadillac Carbon X. It feels a lot nicer, but it is heavier to me.
Yeah. It's got more underfoot too.
Yeah, but as far as the whole endorphin comparison, I would say that's more Race Rebel.
Okay.
That Race Rebel / Carbon X hybrid baby, you know. So they're like it's like I said, it's like responsive enough. It's not that responsive in comparison to say the Nike Vaporfly Zoom X, the Audios Pro Light Strike, Flight Foam Turbo from Asics. It's not like that. It's nothing like that. You're looking more at like you're almost like on Flight Foam versus like Hoka compressed molded EVA. Like it's more down that rabbit hole of things. But there's a lot of it, and it's lightweight. So the shoe itself does actually run pretty fast. It's just it's not that next gen shoe that you might be looking for. But you might not need that. If you want something a little bit firmer and still a little bit closer to the ground, good traction. I mean, the traction on this is actually really good compared to most of the other racing shoes on the market, I think. You want a little bit more of a stable platform. I think it's not a bad option. Yeah. I know Matt has some different feelings, but...
Yeah, just back to that original question for you, Matt. Could you feel the difference between the UD Foam and the UD Foam Pro?
Yes, but probably not in the way that Craft was hoping, where I actually really like the UD foam, and I think we've talked about here that, there's some new foams out there, but we're not hating on EVA. It can still be done well, and it still has a place. And I think the Ultra Carbon 2 just has done such a great thing for me, where it's like, it's got the plate, and same thing with the Ultra 2, where it's got enough bounce, but it's not super unstable. There's some things geometry they do really well. And I still like that I could still move pretty quick on the trails and a little bit on the roads in this shoe. Like, I really enjoyed running in it and done workouts in it. It almost doesn't feel like EVA. It feels like it's just got a little bit of bounce to it, but it's subtle. Whereas I have to be honest, I have not enjoyed running in this, where I've just found that it's firm. I haven't felt like there's any, and maybe I'm spoiled because I'm, been training in other, or not training, but doing workouts in Audios Pro 2 or other shoes like that like next generation foams, stuff like that.
You're talking about the Race Rebel right now.
Yeah, the Race Rebel. I'm sorry for not clarifying for the podcast listeners. But I found this foam to be really firm, not have bounce to it, and the shoe to actually be so stiff. I was getting some calf spasms the first time I tried to take this out and had to switch out to another shoe. And then I took it back later, did some strides, and broke it in. So the plate is stiff enough and the foam is firm enough that I had to take some time to break this in. And I think I'm just challenged from a price point that there's some other stuff out there that's cheaper. And I think that this is a good attempt, but I think this needs to get reworked a little bit just because it's not it's not as responsive as I would like. And I think David's much faster than me. So maybe you are pushing this in an area that I maybe can't, but yeah, I wasn't a big fan. I found the foam, to answer your question, the foam to be firmer, but not necessarily in a snappy way. I think once I got moving and did some strides, I could feel the plate, but the foam, I actually like the UD foam better because I felt like I got more bounce out of that than the UD Pro.
Yeah, and to put that on the record, I actually agree. Out of all three of the shoes, my favorite are indeed these two shoes. It's not so much. I think
the Ultra and the Ultra Carbon.
Yeah, the Ultra and the Ultra Carbon, and it's not so much necessarily as a shoe itself. I think it's more for the intended use. Now, for daily training, this actually is one of my favorite shoes right now. I actually really like the CTM Ultra. I really like the CTM Ultra Carbon as well, but for me, it's a little bit more of a long run shoe. Like the plate's a little bit too much sauce for daily mileage for me. But the midsole, like I said, it's not really like a new generation midsole. It's pretty firm, and the shoe relies a lot on its geometry. So it's like once you get up to speed, it keeps you rolling, but you don't really get anything out of it. That's the best way I can put it.
Mm-hmm.
The Cloud Boom Echo was a shoe I kind of have an almost similar experience where things moved a little bit better with the Cloud Boom Echo, but it was not a shoe that I feel fast running in this shoe, right? And the Cloud Boom Echo gives me that a little bit, but this one was just like, I really have to work to run fast in there. Once I get up to pace, it's okay, but I think maybe we're getting spoiled by some of the efficiency stuff that's out there that we talked about earlier. But yeah, I think...
No, I agree completely because I remember distinctively before the workout and I was like, oh my goodness, I got to go split like 10-10 through this 2 mile right now. And I'm like, and then it doesn't stop there. Like it was a longer tempo, but it was like an in and out tempo. But the first 2 miles were 10-10. And I'm like, I got to go run 5:05 twice in these. And I'm like, oh man, here we go. And then like once I sent it and I got up to speed, then it was okay, but it wasn't really like, it's not something that I'm like, oh yeah, let me go grab that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I could almost see myself running, and I hate to say it, but like it almost seems like a nice ultra shoe too. Lightweight, rhythmic, something I'm not really running super fast in. Like something up tempo but controlled. But again, that's what this is for. Yeah. So I think I appreciate them coming into the road like racing market. It's not a bad shoe. I think it'll work for some people, but it's just not. It's not that next generation shoe that like a lot of people are probably hoping for. It's just
some of the potential benefit that these shoes are giving to some people. You know, like the Vaporfly, the Alphafly, the Metaspeed Sky. You're probably not going to get that here. Doesn't mean that that's only one piece of the equation for choosing a shoe. But at that higher price point, if you're going to go buy a really expensive shoe, you might as well buy the one that might actually give you some benefit in all the realms, including, I mean, like if this is the most comfortable shoe for you, then cool. But it sounds like you guys aren't saying like, hey, this is the Race Rebel isn't the one to go jump over the top for.
Right.
No, and I think there is some potential. I think it's just a matter of midsole composition, really. I mean, I actually really like their rocker designs on all three of these.
The rocker's good.
Yeah, I
Rocker's
think
solid.
I think the shoe itself, like it's the components are there. I think they're just missing that special piece as far as that road racing component goes.
Yep.
And I think go for it, Nathan.
Rocker's good. The foam, I think the UD foam is really functional for daily mileage. And I think the outsole for people in Stevens Point, not that that's a huge population of people. We've got like 30,000 people in the within 30 minutes of here. But, having an outsole that has some of these, little bit of girth on there and depth within those, did I say girth? Depth.
Yes, you did. That's okay.
Depth within the rubber allows these to work great on on road, but also go on to, we have the green circle, which is crushed granite or crushed gravel or something. It's late on a Sunday. I'm tired, and we just got back from St. Louis today and drove 8 hours, so I'm exhausted. But my point is, this is kind of one of those perfect hybrid shoes for people in scenarios like that, where there's a little road to trail stuff going on. Except the uppers. Yeah. So I think the upper needs some work, and then on the racing side, it needs some work.
Yep. Now, if you have a high volume foot, that might be good for you.
That could change things for sure.
But totally agree with Nathan. The outsole, it's held up to me. So this is 60 miles. Okay, this for me.
If there's anything left,
the fact there's anything left is good. We've had several emails and comments about this recently on some other shoes, but I totally agree with Nathan. The outsole is great and works for is truly like a multi-surface outsole, which is great and something that I feel like a lot of companies say but don't always execute. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, this is great. This is our first round in any sort of craft shoes, so it's been a good first experience to just see what's their baseline. This is their second round of shoes that they're really coming into the run specialty market with. So it's been nice for us to get some testing on it. Our full reviews are going to drop on doctorsrunning.com upcoming here. I won't be getting mine out for a while, but these two guys, and then we have, I think Megan has a pair that she's getting some miles on as well.